Welcome back to Telltale Books. Got a review of a new book this time. One that I had read, and I already have my reviews out everywhere through NetGalley. And so I got a free copy through NetGalley. I was impressed with it enough that I have bought my own copy, and that is Observer. Now, I've seen this advertised just to an incredibly huge degree over the past year, actually, well before it ever became available. Not sure that Robert Lanza is, well, I'm not sure who he is. I'd never heard of him before. He's apparently a physicist dealing with quantum mechanics, and the ideas that are put into this novel, apparently he probably feels are real. So I don't know there. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure about that. We don't, I'm not here to care about the guy's personal day-to-day beliefs. I'm here only caring about a work of fiction and whether or not it's enjoyable for you guys to read. Whether or not it's worth your, what did I pay for this? Worth your $26.95 plus shipping and tax. Now that's what made me pay attention to it when I first saw the ads, is that Nancy Kress is probably mostly responsible for the writing craft here, because I don't know what else Robert Lanza has written. I do know he hasn't written any other science fiction. So as far as crafting a really good yarn, Nancy Kress is the one with all the talent there. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't know, maybe Robert Lanza is a really amazing writer. But Nancy Kress is an amazing writer who has won a lot of the top genre awards, Hugo, Nebula, and she's a pretty big deal. Though I don't feel you hear enough about her these days. At one time she was one of the best in the field, constantly appearing in the magazines and always being talked about and always being at least nominated for awards. Now I don't hear much from her. And so I was interested in this new novel of hers coming out. And that prompted me to get the advanced reader copy through NetGalley when I saw that it was available, and I started reading it, and I started loving it. And so the novel came out before I was even finished reading it. I was only about halfway through, and the novel became available, so I bought it and read the rest, because I do prefer reading real copies. I read the rest of the book as a real physical copy of a book and loved it. Okay, the basic story is you have this neurosurgeon who, it's been a while since I finished it. I forget why she was kicked out of the hospital where she was in her residency, but she was asked to leave, and she did, and because of what she did, something controversial that she did, but was a good thing, it just went against the rules. Anyway, she was having a hard time finding another position and getting her career back on track. So this uncle of hers invites her to an island. Her uncle is like filthy rich, Bill Gates type rich, and he has his own secluded island, I think in the Bahamas, something like that. And he invites her there, and she doesn't want to go because when they tell her what she's going to be doing, she thinks they're full of crap And so she resists it. But ultimately, her inability to find anything else and keep herself going, she ends up kind of being forced to. She has a sister who has a daughter that's extremely ill with a rare disease, and is unable to. Her sister's daughter is unable to do basic things, and so her sister has to try and take care of her, but that means her sister can't work a job, doesn't have money to hire somebody to come in and take care of her daughter, and so this woman is trying to support the three of them, and now she doesn't have any income. She needs to do something, and her uncle promises to basically give her all the money she needs, and all the money her sister needs. So she ultimately caves in and does it. And what it is that this uncle and her as a neurosurgeon are working with this physicist who has this idea that dreams are actually alternate realities. When we dream, and this comes from real world quantum mechanics. Okay, there is a thing in quantum mechanics where the exact path of a particle is not determined until it's observed. Before that, it could take any number of paths. So you have all these probabilities, and the exact reality of what the particle takes is determined by the observer in the experiment observing what path the particle takes. And so there's advanced theories that say that the reality of these particles, that the particles are really just a wave until observed, and then they take concrete reality and have physical form and take a physical path. Otherwise, all the particles act as just like a probability wave. Now, this is real quantum mechanics, and I'm probably doing a poor job of explaining it, but this is real world quantum mechanics. This is the way, this is real physics that I'm talking about so far. But it only operates at the quantum level, at the particle level, subatomic particles. The real world macro level that we live in doesn't act that way. Okay. Basic idea of this book is to say, oh yes, it does. And when we dream, that's our minds as observers, hence the title of the book, our minds as observers determining a reality. And what happens is this reality splits off as an alternate reality. So it's out there somewhere. It is real. We just aren't living in that reality. We're still living in the reality that we were in when we went to sleep. But we've created this alternate reality. So every time we dream, we create another whole alternate world with alternate lives. And this woman's uncle, he's dying. What he wants to do is cheat death. He doesn't want to die. And what this physicist, quantum mechanics physicist, is promising is that he can find a way for people to cross over into an alternate world they create and continue to live. Essentially, you could live forever. This book is very compelling. It's extremely well written. It's a really good example of how I'm always saying science fiction is the literature of ideas. And if you want a science fiction story to have strong characters, you need to find a way for whatever idea you came up with to be intertwined into the characters' lives, so that you have to develop a strong character in order to develop your idea. The two are linked. A good example of something like that would be a story about a character who makes himself immortal. Okay, if you tell that story without good characterization, the story's going to fall flat, because it's about a person. It's about that person's life being extended infinitely, or at least for an extremely long time. And so then you have something like Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein, which is all about Lazarus Long. If Heinlein didn't do a good job building that character, that novel would be absolute crap. Fortunately, Heinlein did a pretty darn good job with Lazarus Long, and in my opinion, it's a great novel. Nancy Kress similarly does a really, really good job with intertwining this concept into the characters, so that all the characters have to be well developed. The character of the uncle, the character of the neurosurgeon woman, the character of her sister, the character of her daughter, the character of the physicist. All these things are essential to developing the idea, because it's through these characters and their motives that the idea is brought forth, and the experiments move forward towards their conclusion in the story. And like I say, I don't know how much you can ascribe to Robert Lanza here. He's a scientist. I don't know him as a writer. I know Nancy Kress is a great science fiction writer. So I'm assuming, and this may be a really, really dumb assumption, but I'm assuming Nancy Kress is the writing powerhouse here. And she makes this novel, in my mind, a great novel. I'm giving this one Telltale status. It blew me away. It's the best novel I've read in a long time. And it's every bit as good as all the classic science fiction I'm always pushing on you here. It's a brand new novel, just came out in February. I recommend it. I think if you love what I consider to be a real science fiction, this is going to do it for you. And this is how to do science fiction right. So, have you read Observer yet? This is April. It's been out for a couple months. Have you read it? Have you wondered about it? Leave comments. Leave comments anyway, even if you've never heard of this. Come on back. Like us, subscribe to us. And I don't know when I'll ever get around to Nancy Kress again. I haven't read a lot of her work. I read some of her early work. It's the first I've read by her in a long time. But I've got such a huge list of stuff to read that I don't know when I'll get back to her. But I'm going to be reading lots of other stuff and talking about lots of other stuff in the meantime. So come on back and watch all of our videos. And I'll see you then.